All right, we are back. HSC Podcast 150 from the movie review, jumping into draft night in the NFL. So big night tonight. I mean, for me, it's a little disappointing to wait this long and how it played out. But I mean, it is one of those things that when you get into the playoffs, even or when the season's winding down, you start thinking about, especially when your team's not there, what's the draft's going to be like, what free agency is going to be like, and those kind of things. So it is an exciting time of the year, even though we're not in the height of football. And obviously, NFL's trying to make the most out of it that they can as well. Before we dig too far into the draft itself, looking at this first round and the people who are taken, not where they're taken, who they're taken by, but what do you guys think of the talent level overall of this draft comparative to other drafts? Now that we've seen the first round play out, is this a highly talented draft class? Is it a mid range? Is it on the lower end? How do you feel about the talent in the first round?
I think it's more mid. I mean, you have a few ultra talented players, and then it's more. I think what they say like the first you only had like eight or so top tier talents, and then from like 9 to 50, they were all like interchangeable.
Do you agree with that? Like, are
I
you of the
kind, I
same
mean,
opinion?
I kind of do. I mean, do we like? Did is Will Campbell or Membu or Banks stand out as like top tier tackles? Not really. Um, because they've even said all three of them might be guards. Cam Ward probably would have been like the seventh quarterback taken last year. But then you get Travis Hunter, Abdul Carter, Mason Graham, and Genty. Yeah, those are all top tier pet talents.
Yeah, and there's a few guys in there also, I think, mid range, like John Walker at
Mhm.
15. I think he's better than a 15 pick. Um, but yeah, I mean, like moving up to take Jackson Dart, you only have two quarterbacks drafted. What's your feeling, Wes? What's the strength of this first round comparatively to other first rounds?
Well, of course, the obvious is it's not a very strong quarterback class. With skill positions, I mean, first rounders, I mean, when it comes to receivers, you only had, I mean, you have Travis Hunter, but then McMillan goes to Carolina. Uh, Golden got, I think Golden at that 24th pick is a real value pick. But besides that, there's not really any wow when it comes to the skill guys. It was pretty much a draft. More of this draft was more about infrastructure. Teams kind of building from the inside out defensively. There's a lot of edge rushers. Edge rusher seems like it's the strength. Um, you always have cornerbacks taken in the first round. That's nothing new there. So
Quite a few linemen,
yeah,
one running back.
Two.
two. Well,
Oh, two
Marion
running
went
backs.
to
Sorry.
Chargers.
Yeah, because Hampton and the Chargers. There you go. So you got two running backs, but two receivers. And to be honest,
Three.
I,
Oh, you had about Abuka.
oh yeah,
Look at
yeah.
the box.
I was surprised he went where he went, by the way.
Well, yeah, because I'm like they got I don't know. Do they not feel like McMillan is going to
Yeah,
progress anymore? Because then it's like you're going. I get you. Maybe for the future with Evans and who knows how Godwin's legs are, but
that it just felt real early. I mean, Mecca, he broke the Ohio State record for receptions, right? So it's not like he's a scrub, but man, at 19. But even though, like, okay, so let's take those three receivers. Like, for me, they're not great, right? It's not like last year's receiving class. It's not like last year's quarterback class.
But
So
we
yeah,
can
I think mid-range at best. when I look at these players.
Well, I think it's going to be like this draft is going to be about depth, not
Depth, right?
superstardom, but it's going to have lots of depth. I think, yeah, you're going to get a good starter for the first 3 rounds easily.
Yeah. So I think that's kind of why the question was directed to the first round, because now you look at what's coming up for the rest of the draft, and there's a lot of opportunity to fill spots with good talent. Not talent is not far off from what you drafted in the first round. But yeah, the first round did seem very light to me as far as total overall talent level. But as a draft, I think it's very deep. And so at this point, we know Shadur Sanders has fallen out of the first round. I mean, any thoughts on why, or is it a mistake for teams to have passed on him? Is it the right thing to do? Why did he fall? Like, what's the thought process there?
Well, I feel what it is the media built him up so much, but the scouts and the departments were like, nah, he's a second round grade. But ESPN, I guess I was seeing tons of stuff of people like all ESPN, like Cam Ward gets drafted number 1 and all they talk about is Shador Sanders.
Did you not hear at the beginning of the draft that like basically on the panel they're talking Shadur Sanders is better than Cam Ward?
But I don't, I'm not a hater of Shador. I like him. Um, I hope I can get him in the second round. But I think what happened was it was the Deion Sanders Colorado factor, and they became the media's darlings to talk about nonstop, and it inflated his perception of where he would go to fans and everything. But the scouts were like, "No, man, he's not a first round talent."
Yeah. So you think the brass tacks comes down to what you see, whether it be film or in pro days, things, whatever they do. That doesn't matter how hyped you are. If you don't see it at a talent level, at a scouting level, you're not going to get there.
And to be fair, also it might be a lot too of, do I want to deal with Deion Sanders and his?
What are your thoughts on that, Wes, and on Shadur's drop?
Well, I can't believe that he dropped out of the first round after. I mean, he just had his jersey retired. How can you not draft him in the top 10, right? Like he's and that's the whole problem right there. The optics seems like is just it's he's been built up throughout his 2 years in college. He didn't really have a winning record in college, and so um, but if you look at, I mean, look at you watch his draft highlights and, you see that he does have the it factor that I think teams are looking for. I just don't think he's a top 10 quarterback. I think he's a late first round quarterback, or even a mid. Like I could have seen a team that didn't have to trade up that much to get him. I was a little surprised that the Steelers didn't get him. He's right there. You have Mason Rudolph. You have and I don't
You
even
have
know who else.
nothing. You have
You have
nothing at
nothing.
quarterback.
You have Aaron Rodgers. Like, well, you know what? I just want to see how much they really want me, or then I'll just retire. It's like, dude, do you want to play football? This isn't the freaking Jacksonville Jaguars. This is the Pittsburgh Steelers. You don't want to fit. I mean, you can finish your career like all these other legends, like Johnny Unitas going to the San Diego Chargers in his last couple years. Brett Favre going to the Jets. I mean, like him. It's like,
Emmett
just
Smith to the Cardinals.
do you
Yeah.
want to play or not? It's an organization of infrastructure, and they do things the right way when it comes to top to bottom, when it comes to running a franchise. And you're actually disrespecting them, by saying, I don't know if I really want to play. I'll think about it while I'm, in some dark cave. Like, who knows what the hell he's doing.
Do they have
So
another plan though? Like, what's the
What?
Steelers' plan? Let's say they, I mean, I don't think you want to rely on Rodgers, right? You obviously can't roll with Mason Rudolph. Like, what's their plan?
Well, I mean, they of course now you don't have Jackson Dart, so and anybody but Shador is not starting for the Steelers next year, and so they're probably figuring. I mean, what's their next pick? It's deep. Is it like 64? They got nothing. They can't even trade back up.
Well, I mean, self-proclaimed Will Howard is the best quarterback in the draft, so
Yeah, they're high. I
maybe,
mean, they're absolutely high. I mean,
yeah. I don't
if
even think they have a second rounder, do they?
I'll take Will Howard over Mason Rudolph, don't get me wrong,
Wait a
but
minute. I didn't know how.
No, they don't have a second rounder.
yeah, they
Yeah,
don't.
pick 83.
It's for 83, yeah, yeah. So they're screwed. And I don't understand why you wouldn't pick him right there, unless he doesn't fit. The Steelers. Steelers are the same way as the Giants. There's there's a mold that they are accustomed to for years. And it's like they think that Shador doesn't fit that image. It's more about his image than the franchise.
Right.
And I think it's not it's just not the right fit. It's not like Shador is not a first round talent. It has to be the right fit. I thought the Saints was the perfect fit.
Yeah.
And I still think that the Saints might make a move now that unless they really like you know, Spencer Rattler.
Well, they still got car issues, right? They don't even know
They
if,
got Carr's got issues.
but they do have the eighth pick in the second round. I
Yeah.
just don't think, I don't, yeah, unless they move that up a little bit. I can't see Cleveland not taking him, though.
Yeah, but then again, Dion, I feel like I want you in Cleveland.
We
What are you,
just talked
LeBron?
about
What are
that
you, LeBron
earlier.
James? But
uh,
take your
the,
talents elsewhere.
there is one thing when you think about Pittsburgh, right? Can you imagine Metcalf, Pickens, and Shadur? Like, how do you deal with those three big old heads in your locker room?
Yeah, that's the problem too. Again,
That would be tough,
Tomlin already had Antonio Brown and Le'Veon Bell in the same
right?
locker room.
He's used
So,
to it. Maybe he's just tired of it. He's like,
and he
you know
had
what?
what, like Martavis Bryant in
You
that
guys
same
do this to
locker
me,
room. And I'm like,
yeah, it would be the first Hard Knocks where they just do the whole season, like Hard Knocks Pittsburgh Steelers whole season.
right?
just seeing Tomlin just like this.
The whole
Yeah,
time. It's interesting to see how that plays out, though, because of, like you guys said, like the media hype and just the general hype for him over the last few years in
because he's
college
a break.
football.
He's not even a rookie. He already has his own brand. So his brand's not gonna go well with some franchise. Like the Cowboys, you think, hey, you know, this is what you guys want. You want Dion here, you want the bling, you want the shine, right? You just want that. You don't really want the wins, right? I mean that I
So
mean,
if you guys had to throw out a guess, looking at the second round, obviously there still could be trades. Like, where does Shadur land in the second round? I have a hard time believing with Cleveland with two picks in the first four that they don't take him. So my
I think,
opinion would be Cleveland takes him.
yeah, I think
And
he's
one,
going 33 because you have to take him 33 because Texans have already traded down. Who know? I mean, if like a team like the Raiders wanted Shador, let's say, they would trade with the Texans, so then you wouldn't get him with your other pick at 36.
yeah.
So you have to if Cleveland wants him, or if Dion, I don't know how he could. I know it's hard to have leverage when you go in the second round. But if Cleveland doesn't take him with 33, uh, he might go to the Saints at 40. Who knows?
Which gets crazy, right? Now you got the Saints with a second chance at him in the eighth pick in the second round.
Yeah.
Well, because obviously Tennessee's not taking him. Obviously the Patriots, the Bears, they're not taking him.
Right. So it could be, yeah, the Raiders or the Saints. And then if that gets by him, the Cowboys.
Yeah. Jets are still in there.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's some landing options there. My guess would be Cleveland. I don't see why Cleveland wouldn't, unless, you get into what you're saying is, it's too much to deal with him and his image and Dion and
But that would be kind of, hats off to Cleveland getting another first next year.
oh yeah.
Um, Picking up Graham and Shador plus another pick at 36. Yeah. Three picks in the first 36 players. So
No, Cleveland did well for themselves. I have a feeling Cleveland had their eye on Mason Graham anyway. As good as Abdul Carter is, the best thing you can do for Miles Garrett is give him someone on the interior. If you watch Cleveland over the last couple of years, they're moving Miles all over the line to try to keep him away from, from different line protections. Well, you can't shift your line a lot when you got Mason Graham in there in the middle because he's a pressure defensive tackle. Like he gets depth on his rush. And so if you're shifting protection and Mason Graham's getting depth, that really, really opens up Miles Garrett.
and that helped out because if the Jags don't trade with Cleveland, they'll probably take Genty.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, well, so let's get into the picks.
Oh, Wes.
So turn your camera off there. So we'll start with Cam Ward, obviously number one pick. I don't think there was any, you know, question there. Did you think anybody else was going number one?
No, I mean that's been I think we've known this for I don't know how many months. This has like been the.
Like
It's
Caleb
almost like they
Williams
should
last
already
year.
have the contract signed by now.
Yeah, I mean it's obviously a huge need for them. It's your chance at number one to get what could be your future quarterback. I just don't see you not taking Cam Ward there, so no surprise. It does. What do you think? Like, is he a good future quarterback for Tennessee?
I like Cam Ward. I don't know if I like Tennessee though. That's the whole thing is it's hard with some of these players because it's like situations of where they go. Like we talked about a few years ago, I did not like Richardson going to the Colts. And that's where he went. And look what happened. Everyone's saying he sucks, but I don't think he sucks. I just think he went to a bad situation.
That's
Cam,
not, yeah, not uncommon though. Like happens to a lot of quarterbacks.
yeah, exactly. Cam Ward goes, to Tennessee. They got Callahan there. So he's a quarterback guy, so we'll see how that goes. They just picked up Lockett. They got receivers and they got what do they have? Do they have what? Do they still have Pollard and Spears, right?
Yeah, Pollard and Spears is a very good. Pollard's great out of the backfield. Spears runs inside. What's that guy? Westbrook. He played pretty good last year. So it's not like they didn't have talent. I think adding Lockett is a great thing for Cam Ward because you need some guy like that over the middle who's going to run those interior routes and catch those third downs. So obvious pick there, Cam Ward. How about the Travis Hunter trade? The Jags gave up a lot, including a future first round.
Yeah.
Just switched picks, so I mean, also Cleveland only had to move back three spots, and then some other draft capital. So, how do you feel about that? Is Travis Hunter that good?
it's hard for me. I just need to know what they're going to plan for him because, that's yeah, if he's going to play every down, sure, it's perfect. It's worth it. But if you're just going to be a corner and then sprinkle in like 10, 15 plays of offense, I don't know if he's worth being the second overall pick. Because,
With giving up quite a bit
yeah,
of draft capital.
I just don't know if he's like, I don't know if he's a Sauce Gardner or a Patrick Surtain as a corner.
Right.
I don't think he's a Justin Jefferson as a receiver. So I think he's good, but I don't think he's great at either one.
Is this a situation maybe where the Jags are like they just brought in Brian Thomas last year, who's a stud, and now they're kind of saying, let's bring in another guy for um, quarterback.
Trevor Lawrence.
Yeah, Trevor Lawrence, and prove, that you're our guy. Like we're gonna give you some weapons, like we gave you 11 last year, we're gonna give you another weapon this year. Like if you can't do it with this, maybe they got to think about moving on from it.
Right.
So maybe it's that time where Jags say we're going to try to go get that star factor for Trevor Lawrence to figure out if he's really our quarterback of the future. But now you kind of also have to re-sign ETN, right?
Well, they got Bigsby too.
Yeah, I mean Bigsley's solid.
Plus, there's so many other running backs left in this draft. There's tons. That's the thing is, you got to take the first round as in a whole picture because you might not be like, oh, okay, but then later rounds, you're like, oh, okay, now it makes sense.
Right. Yeah, if you mean if the Jags go and grab, a Henderson or Junkins or
Yeah.
another solid running back. How about Abdul Carter to the Giants? Like I thought this was a great pick for the Giants. I think you build through defense, you build through defensive line, and that's always been a thing for the Giants. So you've got Thibodeau, and now you add Abdul Carter.
But they put in Thibodeau on the trade block, which is, I don't understand. It's like, don't get rid of pass rushers, just keep them.
Right.
I guess they don't think they're going to pick up his option.
Yeah. Well, I mean that's kind of a rough spot, right? Because he is getting there, but if he has a great year, you pick him up, right? And I think that helps him having Abdul Carter on the other side.
Yeah. I love Abdul Carter. I think I would have taken him probably number one because I don't think the Titans are going to, even with Cam Ward, are going to be very good. And I thought they should just stockpile talent before getting their quarterback. But
Start rebuilding now, which is I think the Giants kind of understood that and said, perfect pick for us.
oh, yeah, because they're waiting on Arch.
Right. He's got to have another Manning in there.
Yep.
Uh,
Starting, already said Russell Wilson's starter. There you
yeah.
go.
Will Campbell, obvious kind of easy pick there, I think. You
Yeah.
got to protect Drake May.
And then,
Uh,
like I said, he was the number one offensive lineman.
right.
So,
For me, he was also. So that's kind of a no-brainer. I think Patriots did the right thing there. Love what Cleveland did here at 5 because again, I think that they really were high on Mason Graham anyway. And for them, they said, well, we're going to get a bunch of draft capital and get a guy we really like. I think they did a real good move there, and I like Mason Graham. I think he's going to be tough in the middle. He's a good pass rusher for a defensive tackle. He's very got a high motor, stops the run, so a very good addition to the defensive line with Garrett.
yeah, I like Mason Graham. If Jags would have stayed and gotten Genty at 5, and that's who I would have wanted the Raiders to get, would have been Mason Graham.
Yeah, so I think Cleveland that fell within their plan, so that they're good there. Well, here you go, Raiders at 6. It's the
I
Raiders' world.
Yeah, see, this is kind of almost good that we had technical difficulties yesterday because I was pretty depressed yesterday seeing all the things talking about the Raiders are going to take Kelvin Banks. And I'm like, no, just take the best player available, and that is Genty. I don't care that he's a running back. It's the best player available. You take him. Orlovsky's out there going, Raiders, that's not a really good spot for him because they only averaged 3 point. Yeah, they averaged 3 point something because they had a crappy OC in Getsy and they had bad running backs.
Right.
What do? You get a good running back. Shut up, Orlovsky. You don't know what you're talking about. You're a
He
quarterback that ran
rarely
out.
does.
You're a quarterback that ran out of the end zone. And you're on there all talking about, oh, well, Shador should definitely have been taken by now, da 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 da, and Genty to the Raiders, that's horrible. Come on, man. You get
Well, what's how does he what immediate impact does Genty make for the Raiders?
Well, gives them another offensive weapon. Under you got Carroll, you got Chip Kelly now as your offensive coordinator. They're going to want to run the ball, and
Yeah.
they look at Genty, and he looks like they're talking like another Marshawn Lynch. And that's going to be awesome. I guess he was already. It had to have been like, we're taking you at 6. They must have told him because he was wearing silver and black Crocs. And he was talking, he's like, oh, I was, yeah, talking with Max Crosby yesterday. So,
Right. I figured him there from the beginning. I didn't see any reason for them not to take him. What they've done over the last few years and where they're at right now as a team, you're not stepping backwards, right? You're going to be in that mid-level, make the playoffs, maybe not make the playoffs for a couple years with what you have right now. And Genty was the obvious pick to me because you don't have a running back, number one. You brought in a new OC who likes to spread the field and is going to create a lot of zone holes for Genty to run through, and he's going to thrive. Um, at minimum, he gets you 1,000 yards, and at maximum, he transitions well. And again, like I told you before, you may have a 1,500-yard rusher, for the next 5 years. So I couldn't see there was no scenario in my mind where the Raiders didn't go Genty, and it gives you something extra to cheer for next year or
yeah.
yell at. Give the ball to Genty.
Well, I'm trying in my dynasty league to get the number one pick so I can take Genty, but I
Right.
doubt the guy's going to do it, even though I offered a lot.
So great pick there. Seven's interesting because I think Membo's great, and I think the Jets need a lot in a lot of positions. So I don't think it's a horrible pick for them. I think it was the natural, like you said, who's the next best guy in a position we need, and I think that was Membo.
Yeah. Yeah, I have no issue with Membo to the Jets. I mean, although they did take a tackle last year too. So,
Yeah.
but
You got a good solid running back though, and you want to give him some protection. You just add Justin Fields.
I don't know. I kind of would have liked if you would have put McMillan with the Jets. That would have been a nice little thing there with Garrett Wilson. But
Well, he's going to need a little bit of help, that's for sure. Wilson is. But the question is can Fields still then get the ball to him anyway? So doesn't matter
probably,
how many receivers you got out there if you can't throw him the ball. McMillan at Carolina, I think, was a done deal.
yeah.
I had no question in my mind that's where he was going. And you got to give Bryce Young some weapons, right? He's playing better. You're about to find out what you really have in him. And if you don't have any receivers, you'll never know.
Right. And you're like, I think in the earlier podcast, you're like, okay, you have the ancient Thielen as your best receiver.
Right. It's nuts. So that to me was another obvious pick, which I think is a good pick by Carolina. Because you don't know what McMillan's ceiling is the problem. He could
Right.
be average, but he could be really good. That size and his he does a lot after the catch too for a big guy. He'll catch it 15 yards and take it another 30. So good pick there by Carolina. That one's obvious. I think at the Saints were I had no idea what the Saints were going to do. And so to take Banks feels like a safe pick.
Yeah, that's again last year they took Fuaga. So now they got two new, like two offensive linemen. And just like Fuaga, he's a tackle guard. So you don't know if he can play tackle or if he's going to be a guard. I don't know. It's just hard for me at 9, but
Yeah, it is,
I
but he's a
liked him.
big dude.
Yeah, I would have liked him going defense, but
I was surprised, like, because I had Michael Williams for them here. So I thought they might take Michael there. Or Shadur. I think Shadur wouldn't have been a horrible pick for them either.
right.
But as we know, apparently Shadur's not a first rounder anymore. So well, now we'll just get to the Bears and it's so disappointing to me because look, and Loveland's not bad, right? He's not bad. We talked about this earlier. He'll probably fit into the two tight end system that Ben Johnson's going to want to run, and he's a good blocker and he does catch the ball. Man, it's just so hard for me to one stretch. Number one, you're stretching on what his overall rating was, where everybody placed him, and again, that's a scouting thing. But you have a top 10 pick, and I don't think Loveland is a top 10 talent. Is he good? Yeah. Will he fit in the system? Probably, but I really would have loved to seen like a Jelon Walker, at that point. So it's a little disappointing to me.
Well, considering,
Maybe, yeah, good.
well, Bowers was what, 13th last year?
Right.
And he's someone you should have taken in the top 10. Loveland's probably going to be decent, but he's not going to be a Bowers.
No,
He's not going to take the league by storm. He's not going to be a top 5 tight end right away.
he's not even going to be your leading receiver at tight
Right. Because of
end.
Komet. Yeah.
Right. So he'll definitely, add some when you run in that two tight end, but you're not going to run two tight end the whole game. So now you're talking about a player that's your second backup playing only 30% of the snaps anyway.
Right. That's why I would have thought if they were going to go tight end, it would have been Warren because I feel like you can move Warren out to the slot and
A little more versatile.
yeah, more like a Brock Bowers, like more of a pass
Right.
catching versatile tight end, not
He,
as in line.
Johnson likes to run out of that two tight end though too. So I think that's maybe why they didn't take Warren. But overall, I'm very disappointed. And if they don't do something better in the second round, I might lose it. Michael Williams to San Francisco. He's available. You got to take him, right? And how good is that? How much extra help does that give Bosa?
Yeah, they need to reload. And that just helps out a lot because Bosa's getting up there. So
Well, and at the edge, I think Michael Williams is very close to Abdul Carter. Overall talent, the way they play the game, the way they rush, they're very down the line guys, right? So when they get off the ball and the ball's going the opposite direction, they're going right down the line and making plays. And so I like that about Michael Williams, and I think San Francisco did well for themselves there. Geez, Cowboys, you got to go line, I suppose.
it's funny with the Cowboys because we always talk about Cowboys always trying to make flashy stuff to like get noticed and
Right.
media. But then when they draft, a lot of times it's like it's kind of boring, but it fits. It's like you had your all-world guard retire.
Right.
What do? You replace them.
Well, and the tackle too, right? They lost two guys.
Yeah. But yeah, Tyler Booker's a guard, so that moves in there.
Yeah.
I would have liked to have seen Golden here, but to go with CeeDee Lamb, but
Oof. That's a stretch, though.
I know, but who knew that all the receivers would be going so late?
You got to give some help to CD Lamb, though. You're right. But you have to address that need at line, and I think they're just that's when you just take it for the team, right? You're like, this is what we need. This is what we're gonna do. It's not fast, flashy. It's not fancy. We're taking guard, and he's a good one. Booker's a good one. Grant to the Dolphins is an interesting one to me. I don't necessarily agree with this one
It's probably the worst pick of the first
of the
round.
first round. I think I might agree with that.
It's a big time reach. And that's what I think that's the big thing for me is the first round you shouldn't be reaching for something you need. Like a team like
Yeah.
the Dolphins has lots of needs. Just take your best player available. And I would have rather have had Nolan from Mississippi than Grant.
Yeah, if I'm going defensive tackle, for sure.
Yeah. Or just get Jalen Walker.
Right. I mean, you could have taken the next 10 picks and been better off, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Um, yeah,
Yeah.
so that for me, that was not only just a reach, but I think it was just unnecessary too.
Right. And then like I get in like if I just said best player available, but if you're going to go in need, why don't they take a corner? If you're trying
Yeah,
to trade Jalen Ramsey, get a Baron.
right. Yeah, Barron would have been a great pick there.
Yeah.
So probably, I mean, I agree. Probably the worst pick for me was Miami there at 13. Uh, the Colts in 14 at Tyler Warren. I think they probably didn't think he was available or would be available. So when they get to 14 and he is available, kind of hard not to take him.
Yeah. I think that's I think that he was penciled in there for the longest time. And then they were talking, then they start saying, oh, maybe the Bears might take him or he
Right.
might get top 10. But yeah, it's perfect for that's what the Colts needed.
Yeah,
Six.
he'll fit into their game style, their play style really well. Here's where I think was the beginning of Atlanta doing really well here at 15. Obviously, I'm really high on Jalen Walker, but getting him at 15 and when you need a linebacker slash outside linebacker, almost even an edge rusher all in one, that's what you got. And so he's a multi-tool player, which is great for Atlanta.
Yeah, that was a great pickup for the Falcons.
Yeah. Uh, Arizona 16 takes Walter Nolan. Very solid player.
Yeah. They didn't need flashy. They just build your trenches, and that's what they did.
Yeah. So good, solid player, good pick. Gonna do well for them. So I like that pick. Bengals, Shamar Stewart's good. So don't get me wrong. I like him. He's a good edge rusher. He's a mid rounder. They're taking him at 17, so it's not like they're taking him in the top 10. But look, is it because you don't like your edge rushers? Like you just want to get rid of your good ones and bring in a rookie? Like what are you doing here?
Well, I mean, he could pair him with Hutchinson too, or not Hutchinson. Gosh, why can't I think his name? What's
Yeah. Um, I was just looking at him earlier, but is he going to stay though?
well, if they pay him? Oh, Hendrickson.
Hendrickson, yes.
If they pay him,
That's the question. So maybe if they do, so maybe they're saying, Stewart's going
Or
to
if
be a
they
good,
don't, they got his replacement.
right. Yeah, I mean, I guess it's not a terrible pick, but I'm still not completely happy with you going after an edge when you haven't even solidified the edges that you had. You had one retire, and then your other one, you don't even know. He's been on the trade block back and forth, talking about lots of different things with him.
I think we can always need edge rushers though.
Yeah, it's a league of edge rushers, that's for sure. How about Gray Zabel to the Seahawks, North Dakota State?
Well, their offensive line was probably the worst in the NFL last year. So
Right.
Sam Darnold needs all the help he can get since they got rid of his best receivers. So I think it's a good pick for them, and they need offensive line help.
Yeah, it's always scares me though.
North Dakota State.
Yeah, it's a little bit worrisome because you still have Donovan Jackson out there at guard when they drafted.
Right.
But I mean, he's got all the tools, so he looks great on paper. So you're a little surprised about this one. 19, Mecca Ukuba goes to the Bucks ahead of Matthew Golden, by the
Yeah. I would have thought like Barron or Harmon or Starks would have been a better pickup for them. Unless they just have concerns that Evans is getting up there and that Godwin might not be healthy.
way. Right, but then you like you said, they still have McMillan too.
Right. Well, maybe they're setting it up for McMillan and Ekuba to take over for those two.
Yeah. Oh man, I just they just for me, I was on the same thought process as you, is where they did need some defensive help, and you do have a lot of receivers and you have more receivers coming next year.
Yeah.
Because didn't they just lose their one of their corners? Well, I guess that was maybe a little bit ago, but yeah. So they still have Jamel Dean, I guess, at least.
But you can never have enough corners either.
No, no, not when you're playing the type of football the Bucks are playing, because there's some high scoring games last year,
Gosh, I'd love to see a Bucks Bengals game, right?
right? You're
So
like, what's it
defensive.
going to be, 60-65?
Another reason I'm hating the Bucks pick though is because I let the Broncos get Barron.
Right. And how do you feel about that? I mean, that's obviously a division rival,
Yeah, it sucks because now they got Surtain on one side of Barron, and
right?
I don't like that at all.
Which is, I think it was a great pick for
Yeah,
them.
it was a great pick. Um, that's what's sad for the Raiders is the Chargers, the Broncos, and the Chiefs all got better too.
Yeah.
So it's not,
Well, and the Raiders don't have enough. Like they need another receiver, especially if you got teams like the Broncos doubling up on corners.
right.
So that was really really good pick for the Broncos. And man, I mean they've been on the right track lately.
Yeah.
The Derek Harmon pick here for the Steelers at 21. First of all, I'm not even a Derek Harmon fan. Number one, he's decent, but he's not for me. A takeover tackle, a defensive tackle anyway. But you need a quarterback.
Yeah.
So I'm not. I just don't understand what they're doing here.
And that was the thing I was saying earlier was when you're a team like the Raiders or whatever, you just take best player available because you need so much. But you're the Steelers and you made the playoffs. What you need is a quarterback, and
Right.
that's you need. Sorry, you reach for a quarterback because like we were talking later, they don't have a pick until 83, so they're not going to get Shador.
No, unless they trade up right now, then you give up a bunch of draft capital.
Right.
And what's the worst that happens, right? Worst happens you draft Shadur and he doesn't work out, right? It's better than drafting a defensive tackle who, to be honest, isn't going to do a lot for you given what you already have.
Right. I guess they're going Aaron Rodgers.
That to me was probably the second worst pick in the first round.
Yeah, that was a reach. Because I don't even think was he a first round grade? I
I
don't
don't
think.
think so. That's what I'm saying. I've never been, and I've watched a lot of Oregon games, right? And I was never a big on Harmon. So
I guess on this big board they have him as 21, but I just feel like he's more talent than production.
yeah, and maybe he'll fit into that Steelers defense, I guess. But yeah, second worst pick there for me. I really really like Omarion Hampton to the Chargers, which again is not good for you. Because I like him Omarion first of all, but I think going into a Jim Harbaugh system with what he's going to be expected to do and how good he is of a running back, I think he'll fit right in. And I think he's going to give him a lot of production very early in the season.
Yeah. Well, they got him and Najee Harris, so they don't have
Right.
to. I don't know though. I kind of feel I like Hampton. It's good, but is he really? Is it? I kind of feel it's a reach for taking a run. I thought
To
Gent.
grab a running back that early is a reach or Marion
Yeah,
in
because I feel
general.
like Genty was heads and above everyone else, and then Hampton is still with Judkins, Henderson, and then there's like five or six others all kind of together. I don't know if Hampton really set himself apart from everyone.
Yeah. Yeah, I just think he falls a lot into Harbaugh's style, which
Yeah.
is probably why he took him there because he's also big. He's 220 and he's still running a 4.46. So
And again, like the Chargers, they made the playoffs. They just need, but that was J.K. Dobbins did really good for them last year.
yeah. Yeah, he was solid. And they had the other guy, the backup too. They got them both from the Ravens.
Right.
Still, I agree with this pick. I think it fits them well. And like you said, you're talking about a playoff team who they're looking to put together pieces.
Right. I don't
And
hate the pick, but it's not like it's also awesome. Like to me, like it's a B.
yeah, overall, yes, I agree. Good, better for their team than it would have been for other teams, but not the greatest. Donovan Jackson here at Minnesota, great pick in my opinion. Again, um, I think he might be better than a 24th pick.
Well, you skipped.
Oh, yeah. Well, we don't talk about Green Bay in this house. Let's jump back to Green Bay for a second at 23. Wes really liked this pick, so I was interested to hear his take. But
Yeah. Then I
uh, what do you think?
I think of value wise, it was great to get Golden here at 23, but I don't think fit. Do they really need another receiver? And then
Oh,
they finally take a receiver in the first round. Oh man.
and
But
you've got five receivers on your
yes,
team.
I know. I forgot someone pointed out it's like, oh yeah, great. Taking on a team full of number two receivers, you take another number two receiver.
They have like six of them now.
Yeah.
It's it's a good Golden's a solid talent, but it's not a fit for them at all.
It was almost like we'll show you we will take a receiver in the first round.
Right. Proving everybody wrong. And he'll probably won't even play that much. Because to be honest, like they have some pretty solid young receivers.
Yeah. Like Reed and
Yeah.
Dobbs and Watson.
Reed's really good. Yeah, Watson was playing well. Dobbs, So that's a little wild. But I guess you maybe get to a point where you're like, we're getting a lot of value at him at 23 now as he moves further down the board.
Yeah, it's a good value pick.
Yeah. And so yeah, whatever, Green Bay have 62 receivers. That's fine.
Jordan Love will still throw off his back foot.
Right. Donovan Jackson, Ohio State guard to Minnesota. Obvious need, good player. Another one of those real big guys.
You know, got to protect McCarthy. Isn't that interesting? Ohio State offensive lineman protecting McCarthy there.
Yeah, you may not. You might do the lookout block. But yeah, good pick there. Like not great, not bad. I don't understand. I get that the Giants need a quarterback, but what's the thought process being moving up, giving up draft capital to get Jackson Dart here when the teams after that are not taking quarterback 100%?
Yeah, I don't know. But so like with this, they're not looking for Arch because now they're trying to have Dart be their quarterback of the future.
Right.
Maybe they just loved Dart so much.
I mean, and Dart, he's good, but you could have got him, I think, in your by just staying where you're at.
Right.
So the trading up is what gets me. Like I don't mind picking Jackson Dart. I think he's good. I think they need a quarterback at some point. Maybe they think they'll be better next year and they won't have a chance at Arch.
Well, maybe someone thought, well, maybe they were just like, we got to do it because who knows if the Saints or someone will trade it back into the first round to get Dart.
That's the only thing I could think of is that they're worried about someone else trading back in because a lot of these teams, they're in these last, you know, 7, 8 picks, they're all tradable.
Right.
Especially when you look at who was drafted. You're like, yeah, every single one of those would be tradable in the right. Give me a swap picks, give me your third rounder and maybe a fifth or whatever. But still a little weird to me. Still a need. I think they probably should wait until next year, but they're going to roll with Jackson Dart.
Well, Russell's starting this year.
No, for future.
Yeah.
But yes, yeah. Russell's got to be the mentee or the mentor here. Pierce at 26, another trade up. Again, I don't know that I would have given up that much draft capital.
Yeah, for not a quarterback.
Right.
That is the crazy thing.
So that is a little wild, but I also think that they one really liked him and they knew that they needed multiple defensive guys, especially on the line.
Yeah, they're banking on making a huge playoff run, and it's going to be an end of the first round draft pick that they're giving up.
Right. And they took a lot of, like I said, took a little bit, but they definitely won the first round with those two picks. Did they have to trade in for one? Sure. But, when you look at them getting those two guys and Walker and Pierce, like that's solid.
Yeah.
Starks to the Ravens.
Dude, I love this pick.
Yeah.
Starks and Hamilton as your safeties now. Mm,
Both big guys.
both so versatile. Yeah, I love when they said the Ravens got Starks. I was like, oh, that's perfect fit for the Ravens.
Mm-hmm.
Talk about identity for like the past 20 something years. And that's it. The Ravens are probably one of the best run franchises there is.
Yeah. Well, and they 100% knew exactly what they wanted and just stuck with that and the guy they wanted was available. It's going to be, in my opinion, a great pick for them in the end. So I would put them that in the top 5 picks for the first round. Williams, Ohio State defensive tackle. I got to admit, Haven't done a ton of research on him, but he had very good stats. Is that a huge need in Detroit? Is that a good pick?
Well, yeah, defensive line is a huge need. I mean, just f- getting your line in shape. Offense, defense. That's what their defense was lacking still. So they need just more bodies. The funny thing is I like is Detroit took a defensive tackle from Ohio State and Cleveland took a defensive tackle from Michigan.
Right.
So,
Playing with the enemy.
yeah.
But, these guys don't care, but that is funny. Another Oregon guy, it's pretty crazy, goes to the Commanders. They need line. They get Connerly Jr. I don't think, he didn't have like, he was right within that draft grade, right?
Right.
Of that 29 to 34. I mean, if you're Washington, you added so much, you really got to think about the trenches. So not a horrible pick here,
I would have rather had Josh Simmons though, but
right?
yeah, this big board was saying that he was the 40th best player, where Simmons was the 18th.
Yeah, Simmons had a much higher grade.
Of course, thanks, Commanders, for that one. Who got him?
Well, yeah, now Simmons is playing for a rival for you.
Yep.
Maxwell Harrison, Kentucky goes to the Bills. They need a corner. I mean, he's a little undersized, but he's fast.
Right. Yeah, I don't know if he's just going to be a slot corner, if they're going to, well, I mean, for first round, you kind of want him to play, but I mean, White was small too.
Right.
So,
Well, and I guess small is a perspective for corners. Um, you would like to have that 6'1" corner, but that doesn't exist as much as it should. A very good player, though. So I think fills a need for the Buffalo, and they didn't trade with Kansas City this time. Give him a great player.
yeah.
Pittsburgh, I mean, Philly and Kansas City for some reason swapped.
Yeah. Yeah, that was
I think this is a great pick for the Eagles, and I think that's who they wanted, which is why they did the swap. Because you get a guy who's got a much higher grade than getting him at 31. Linebacker wise, he's arguably could be the best linebacker in the draft because you only have a couple, at least
right.
here at the top.
Well, he's middle, right?
Right.
Yeah, so he's the number one middle linebacker. They have what? Walker is the number one linebacker.
Right. That's, yeah, a linebacker
I mean,
overall,
but
but
I
yeah,
consider Walker more of an edge than a line. You know what I mean?
which is why I like Walker because you can put him up back and forth like Campbell's just a tackler.
Yeah. So it's Walker of Montez Mack. Is that what's going on?
Yeah, it might be that draft day. I really wish the Bears would have taken him. But good pick for Philly. They have an identity, and their identity is bringing young, good defensive guys.
Yeah. And they keep getting them to fall to them.
Right, all the way down to the end of the draft. You're still getting Campbell there. That's great.
Yeah.
So that's got to be one of my top, maybe 10. And then here you go. Chiefs give up the gigantic Josh Simmons, or get the gigantic Josh Simmons.
Yeah. I
Uh,
mean, that's what happened in the Super Bowl. Mahomes was getting beat up. They need offensive
yeah.
line, need tackles. So there you go. They get one.
Well, and they made some bad decisions on the offensive line recently. So I think it was time for them to draft a young, good. guy who might be there for a long time. So good pick there. I mean, overall, again, I don't think the talent level's super high in this first round. I think a lot of teams, you're right. We talked about that. They went and they filled gaps, drafted smart.
Not too many reaches.
No, there's a couple, but not a lot. A couple picks really love. Obviously, I love the Genty pick. I think that was great. Even though I don't think Mason Graham is the not the greatest pick, the way they got him and the draft capital they got while getting him, I think that was really good for the Browns. I think they did
Yeah,
well.
because it would be crazy. They could end up with Mason Graham, Shador.
And Will Johnson,
Yeah.
that's a good beginning to the draft.
Yeah.
So I did like that. Um, Barron, sorry to the
Um,
Broncos, I think was really solid. So those are kind of three that I really think are kind of my favorites.
yeah. I agree with you on that. I do want to met one that didn't draft, but the trade out was the Rams for what they got for trading with the Falcons.
Right, dude. They got a king's ransom is what they got.
Yeah.
It's just way too much. I get it what the Falcons were trying to do, but man,
Yeah. What was, oh, yeah, it was, yeah, their second round pick and a first next year, and then, yeah, some later round pick. But
right,
yeah,
like a
get a
fourth or
foot.
something for the fifth.
Hmm.
Yeah, that's worth mentioning. That yes, you got done what you wanted to do, but man, yeah, I think you're right. The Rams made out like bandits there. Any other picks that you just highlight as great
I
picks?
love Starks' pick to the Ravens. That just put him with Hamilton.
Right.
And then of course, Genty, because I was so afraid of the Banks going to them.
I like the Ted McMillan pick too.
Yeah.
I thought that was good. I hate to say this, I like the Cowboys pick.
Yeah.
I think they did a good job filling a gap with a good player.
And then what I know they gave up a bunch, but the Falcons getting two edge rushers, so
Yeah.
oh,
Worst picks, definitely the Kenneth Grant for me is number one at 13 to Miami. Definitely didn't like the Derek Harmon pick at 21 to the Steelers. Those are probably the only two that really kind of stand out as like, and well, I guess the Bears, that's questionable. Like, that remains to be seen.
yeah, because you wanted Jalen Walker.
Yeah, well, 100%. But I also think maybe Tyler Warren would have been better, but I don't know, right? How that's going to play out.
Yeah, I
I
agree.
thought they would pick Tyler Warren. Was I put that in my mock draft. Like I already thought Tyler Warren was a done deal.
Yeah, for me, the one still, because I'm not high on him, because I don't know if he's really a tackle or if he's going to be a guard. But the Saints drafting Kelvin Banks Jr. after drafting Fuaga last year.
Right.
Like, I get it, but at the same time, a Jalen Walker there would have been nice.
Well, I mean, they're still at nine. Like everything's on the board.
Yeah. Michael
It,
Williams.
I thought, like I said, I thought it was Michael Williams, 100%. So that was in my mock. Overall, though, I mean, still, it's the draft. It was fun. It's good to see how teams are fill in their gaps. It kind of gives you what next season is going to look like. I'm actually more excited to see the next few rounds. The first round to me is always kind of, well, at least with this draft, it felt very like semantics, with the exception of a few teams reaching or trading and doing things that I didn't necessarily agree with. I'm really interested to see how the rest of this talent is drafted.
Yeah. That's the thing is everyone doesn't really is there's more to the draft than just the first round. So you might get a great pick in the first round, but then suck the rest of the draft.
Right. Or the opposite, maybe you draft Colston Loveland and then you do good stuff with the rest of your picks, Bears. But yeah, I mean, good for both of us. Great for you guys. I think the Raiders did what I thought they would do, but they also did the right thing.
And that's odd for them. Two
Right.
years in a row, they've done the right thing, which is crazy to me.
The
Oh,
Travis Hunter play out is going to be interesting to watch too. Just to
yeah,
kind of
they can
see
see what he
how he
does.
plays out, you know what I mean?
Right. Because he's got to play both ways if you're going to be drafted one or two.
Right. And trade a bunch for it.
Yeah.
So that's going to be a fun story to keep your eye on, and the media will be all over it. Of course, Cam Ward will have a lot of attention, number one pick. Not a great situation for him, though. You're right. All right. Well, I mean, that wraps the round one NFL draft update. It's a lot of good stuff there. See how the rest of the draft plays out. The first part of the second round is going to be interesting.
Yeah. What time is the second round?
So let's say, just to look at this, Cleveland's got 1 and 4 in the second round, right? You're saying take Shadur first because somebody else might trade ahead of you.
If you want Shador, yeah, because that's the only chance.
But
Because
wouldn't you fear losing Will Johnson to the Texans or the Titans?
right, but would you? So I guess it's whoever you value more.
Right. I don't know. I think I might take Will Johnson there.
The only thing is that's what they're saying is the reason he fell is because doctors say that his longevity might be an issue because of his knees.
Yeah. But he's such a good talent.
Oh yeah. Yeah, and for the first pick of the second round, I would gamble on that. But w- you could get a different corner if Will Johnson gets picked, right? But I mean, if Shador to the next quarterback compared to Will Johnson to the next corner.
Yeah, that's a good because they're you do have a significant drop off in quarterback.
Because it would be Milrow. And
Yeah,
Milrow is definitely a project.
he's a career backup.
I don't know about that, but he's not going to start right away. It's going to be a few years. Where I could think Shador can come in early.
I would imagine he'd be their starter pretty soon.
Yeah. I mean, they might. So looking at the big board and who's available still, so it's crazy that they had Will Johnson as the number 5 prospect in this Bleacher Report one,
Hmm.
and then Mike Green, the edge rusher from Marshall at 16, and then Shador at 23. So right there, they might be able to. And then the next corner is Benjamin Morrison at 30. So
Yeah,
I
that's not a
got
huge drop off.
25, but let's see where they have Milrow at 70, right? So that's
So that's a
70 to
big,
23 is a
right.
huge drop.
Yeah, I mean, so that I mean that supports the argument of take Sanders and hope Will Johnson's there. If not, then maybe you just look at a different pick altogether. Maybe you're not even taking corner.
Right. Well, because I mean, Mike Green is there too.
Right. Well, and so that's a hard choice. Like if you're Cleveland, like why would you not draft Shadur Sanders there?
Especially having two second round picks.
Yeah. It's worth the risk, right?
Yeah, I would. I mean, why not? It's better than Deshaun Watson.
Yeah.
Better
His
than
days are done, I think.
better than Pickett.
So, all right. Well, we'll wrap it up there. So, wrap up NFL draft night one. Definitely have recaps in our next podcast. Movie review. Don't forget to go back check that out. Any comments on movies? Love to hear it. Yeah, and we'll wrap it up there and see you next time.